没钱买肉.
Ugh, I can't afford meat, so I can only survive on vegetables. A vlogger said that because of the tariff crisis, they can't even afford to buy meat anymore.
最近牛肉价格怎么样？
How's the beef price these days? It's really expensive now. One cow has gone up by over 2,000 yuan. Regular people can't even afford beef anymore.
On April 19th, a vlogger from the restaurant industry in Ningbo, Zhejiang province, posted a video saying that the overall price of raw materials has skyrocketed due to the tariff war, with beef being hit the hardest. The vlogger explained that China imports about 15% of its beef from the US, and prices have generally increased by 15%. Although the prices at their restaurant haven't been raised yet, they're struggling to keep up with costs, and it's getting very difficult. To survive, they may consider switching to local beef. They also mentioned receiving a call from a supplier, informing them that the price of brisket has increased to 160 yuan per kilogram, 10 yuan more than before, which is a 9% increase. This vlogger pointed out that cities like Ningbo, which are major hubs for foreign trade and manufacturing, can't escape the price hike. The restaurant industry's profit margins are expected to shrink significantly. He sighed, saying, "I can only tighten my belt and get by." A beef seller admitted that they were just barely hanging on. They're getting by one day at a time, and their sales of beef are also down. Most restaurants and cafeterias use frozen beef, which has also increased in price due to a reduced supply of domestic beef. Because of the tariff war and the instability of the market, many cattle farmers are withholding their supply, which has worsened the market shortage and pushed prices even higher. A restaurant owner said, "The tariff war is really tough for people in the restaurant business."
My supplier contacted me today. Our main ingredient is beef, and now because of the trade war, the price is skyrocketing. They told me the price has gone up by at least 30%, and I can't accept that. It's too high. The increase is shocking. We've always sold our meat at a low price with low margins, and now the price has gone up by 30%. I really can't handle it. If the prices keep going up, it's going to be really difficult.
A vlogger mentioned that since President Trump imposed tariffs, beef prices have been fluctuating every day, and now even a calf costs thousands.
I get dozens of calls every day just for one thing, getting beef. The price really changes every day. It's more expensive than gold. It's not just about having money. You can't always get meat. For example, this is American Angus beef, and the price has gone up by 30% recently. It's ridiculous.
Since President Trump announced additional tariffs on Chinese goods, China has retaliated by imposing tariffs on U.S. agricultural products like soybeans, beef, and pork, with tariffs reaching as high as 125%. These tariff measures have directly increased the cost of imported ingredients for China's restaurant industry. The U.S. is one of China's main sources of beef and pork imports. In 2024, China imported 408,000 tons of pork from the U.S., accounting for 18% of its total annual imports. Now, with tariffs as high as 125%, the cost of imports has risen dramatically. The U.S.-China tariff war has spread to every corner of the restaurant industry, from beef and pork to seafood. No sector is spared. On April 10th, a vlogger running a self-service restaurant in Xi'an posted a video saying,
I originally
thought the tariff increase wouldn't have a major impact on our restaurant business, but today at lunch I went to the market to check on ingredients and found that the wholesale price for small chili peppers was 42 yuan per kilogram. Other vegetables have also seen price increases to varying extents. As for fruit, it's even worse. Bananas, which used to cost 50 to 60 yuan per box, have now risen to 70 to 80 yuan per box, and I've heard they might increase further. I thought, what does a trade war have to do with food prices? But the wholesale vendor told me, what do you think? As long as it's related to the economy, everything is affected. Meat prices have gone up even more, especially beef, which has gone crazy. I don't know what the owners of fresh-cut beef hot pot restaurants or the popular barbecue buffet restaurants are going to do next. Raise prices or pivot? It's tough. The restaurant business in 2025 is going to be even harder. A vlogger running a barbecue restaurant said that Trump's tariff war has had a huge impact on their business.
Especially the secret recipe beef belly. Our costs have doubled. We use American beef, and with Trump's actions, all imported beef prices have skyrocketed.
It's not just beef that's gone up in price. Seafood has also been affected. A vlogger running a seafood hot pot restaurant said,
老铁们
people used to say that lobster with claws on was the cheapest. Since the trade war started, the price of lobster has doubled, and it's been tough for us on the retail end. The purchase price has doubled, but we can't raise the selling price, afraid it might drive away loyal customers. We just have to think about selling in bulk at lower profits. Another vlogger running a barbecue restaurant said,
不光是澳洲牛涨，
It's not just Australian beef that's going up. Even domestically produced yellow cattle, pork, and even scallops have all increased. We used to buy them at 7 yuan, and now they're selling for 12 yuan. All raw materials are rising across the board.
the import price of beef has already fluctuated dramatically. A supply chain manager said the tariff impact has been significant. Their annual beef procurement exceeds 5 million yuan, with beef brisket being their main selling item. The price of beef has increased from 30 yuan per kilogram to 42 yuan, a 23.5% increase. The pressure from rising costs continues to grow. In retail, Sam's Club has raised the prices of U.S. imported beef and steaks, a user publicly mentioned. The U.S. selected Sam's Club beef short ribs have gone up from 220 yuan to 320 yuan for a 700 kilogram box, meaning the price per kilogram has increased from 420 yuan to 460 yuan. Due to the trade war, Chinese restaurant businesses, especially chain brands focused on American fast food and high-end Western cuisine, are facing significant procurement cost pressures. Mr. Li, the manager of a steakhouse chain in Beijing, said, "We try to use domestic beef as much as possible, but for some high-quality cuts, we still rely on imports. Now our procurement costs have increased by nearly 30%, and we had to adjust our menu prices, but customers are very sensitive to price increases, so business is noticeably slower than before." The owner of a barbecue restaurant in Fujian admitted, "We've been affected by the tariff increase, with all beef raw materials going up by 10 to 20%. As a result, I removed one of the 3 signature beef options in our 139 yuan set menu, and added tender beef or pork belly as alternatives." Many Chinese restaurants, even those not directly using U.S. imported ingredients, are still heavily reliant on the American chain. For example, rising feed prices in China have increased breeding costs, pushing up the prices of domestic pork and poultry. Some processing companies have reduced production due to raw material shortages, threatening the stability of the supply chain. These hidden costs ultimately flow into restaurant procurement, increasing operational costs. Chinese restaurant industry media, Catering Business Insider, recently posted an article on WeChat stating that changes in tariffs are being transmitted through fluctuations in raw material prices. The impact is concentrated in 3 key imported categories: beef, pork, and more importantly, soybeans. China is the world's largest importer of soybeans, with more than 80% of its demand relying on imports. In 2024, China imported over 100 million tons of soybeans. The U.S. is one of the largest soybean exporters globally, and in 2024, soybean accounted for $12.8 billion of the $24.7 billion in agricultural exports to China, making up over 50% of the total. The main use of imported soybeans in China is for oil extraction, producing soybean oil and soybean meal, 2 core products. Soybean oil is a crucial part of China's edible oil market, while soybean meal is essential for the feed industry, providing 60% of the protein source for animal feed. It's used widely in pig, poultry, and aquaculture farming. In response to the tariff war, China stopped booking U.S. soybeans and corn early this year and increased imports from Brazil and other countries. Data from the U.S. Department of Agriculture shows that since January 16th, China's orders of U.S. soybeans and corn has been 0. Mauricio Buffon, president of the Brazilian Association of Soybean Producers, revealed that in just the first week of April, China signed contracts to purchase at least 2.4 million tons of soybeans from Brazil, which is about 1/3 of China's usual monthly processing volume, indicating an extraordinary scale. Despite this, due to the near halt in U.S. soybean exports to China, the soybean oil market in China remains tight. Even more concerning is the rise in soybean meal prices, which have been increasing steadily since late April. As a key feed ingredient, the cost of soybean meal directly impacts the livestock industry and indirectly affects the restaurant sector. Sun Zhilei, a pig farming analyst at Shanghai Ganglian E-commerce Company Limited, in an interview with Securities Daily last month, that due to rising feed costs and the decline in pork prices, China's livestock industry will enter a cost spiral phase this year.
这个我们是美国进口的牧鸡。
We use alfalfa, imported from the US, but recently, US tariffs have been increasing significantly. It might not just be a price hike issue, there might be no imports at all. So, we need to consider domestic options. However, the quality of domestic alfalfa is still a bit lower. If US alfalfa can't come in, the price of domestic alfalfa will definitely rise.
Someone in China's feed industry pointed out that due to the U.S. tariff on China, the price of imported alfalfa has surged, increasing the feed costs for Chinese ranchers, particularly for large-scale farms struggling to find high-end domestic alternatives. He mentioned that about 60% of alfalfa used in China relies on U.S. imports. If imports are blocked, they can only rely on domestic or other protein feeds as substitutes. He also mentioned that the main wheat straw-producing region of Anhui has been affected by drought, which could lower production and further exacerbate the supply pressure for roughage. In the future, cost-effectiveness will be key to whether Chinese ranchers can continue operating. That price hikes in feed at large-scale farms will affect meat prices, which will then impact the restaurant industry.
Business in the restaurant industry is tough right now, and many people probably don't understand why. Let me give you an example. A lot of large-scale farms rely on imported feed ingredients like corn, wheat, and fertilizers for fruit and vegetable cultivation. Without even mentioning the finished products, just the raw materials price hikes will cause the entire upstream and downstream industry chains to rise. If goods can't come in for a long time, domestic inventories will be strained, and the price of vegetables and meat would increase. Recently, you may have already felt that some meat prices have gone up, so the first industry to be impacted would definitely be the restaurant industry.
A vlogger analyzed that under the trade war, China's restaurant industry is facing a double crisis, rising costs and worsening market competition.
Many restaurant businesses are probably going to face their downfall. Why? The most direct impact of the trade war is the rise in menu prices, especially food. Imported meats have increased. Some people might say, I don't deal with beef, I focus on other things like pork or chicken. But I tell you, it's the same. For example, every year, China imports soybeans and corn from the US, and the prices of these products directly affect breeding costs. The entire livestock sector, the entire meat market will rise. Many people haven't realized this issue yet. This is a very disastrous situation. Also, in the first 3 months of this year, another 750,000 restaurant businesses were registered. What's the first thing these newcomers do? They run promotions and low-price deals, making life harder for existing restaurants. So, this is a chain reaction. In the future, restaurant businesses will suffer even more, and those who aren't competitive will quickly exit.
The Chinese restaurant industry, hit by the tariff war, has been facing mounting pressure from the three mountains of rent, labor, and ingredient costs. Rental costs continue to rise, especially in China's first and second-tier cities, where rents in core business districts account for 20% to 30% of restaurant revenue. Labor costs are also high, with wages for servers, chefs, and other positions rising as minimum wage standards increase each year. The rising costs of ingredients has made matters worse, making it increasingly difficult for the already low-margin industry to survive. High-end restaurants that focus on imported ingredients, like U.S. lobsters and steaks, are under even greater pressure. These restaurants have been facing a wave of closures starting in 2024 due to high costs and the trend of consumers downgrading their spending. According to data from the China Cuisine Association, the national restaurant closure rate in 2024 increased by 15% compared to the previous year. Investment site pedaily.cn, citing statistics from Yilan Business, reported that at least 12,000 stores in China announced closures in 2024, with over 6,000 of those in the restaurant industry. A Japanese restaurant in Shanghai, which had been operating for 5 years, recently announced its closure. The owner said, "The cost of ingredients has gone up, rents haven't gone down, and labor costs keep rising. Customers are becoming more rational, and the average order value is dropping. We really can't keep going." As the prices of basic ingredients like meat and cooking oil rise in China, the cost of everyday meals for residents is quietly increasing. Ms. Wang, a resident of Guangzhou, told Chinese media, "Recently, when I went to the supermarket to buy vegetables, both pork and beef prices have increased significantly, and restaurant prices have gone up as well. Now when we eat out as a family, it costs hundreds, and we feel like we need to spend more cautiously." Restaurant businesses are struggling, and consumers are tightening their belts. Facing the dual pressures of rising costs and market competition, the industry is facing unprecedented challenges. The skyrocketing raw material prices are not only causing headaches for restaurant owners, but are also affecting broader industries, even reaching fitness enthusiasts.
完蛋了，我突然想到蛋白粉的天要塌了。
Disaster! I just realized the price of protein powder is about to skyrocket. The raw material for our protein powder is generally not produced in China. It's imported from the US because they have high quality milk. The dairy and cheese industries are well developed. Due to the US tariffs, the price of protein powder raw materials has already exceeded 100 yuan per kilogram, so protein powder will definitely increase in price.
Chinese expert Yue Shan stated that the US-China tariff war won't settle anytime soon. The Chinese leadership says they're ready to stay the course with the US, believing that the Chinese people can survive on grass while they continue their lavish lifestyles. However, as the old Chinese saying goes, food is the heaven of the people. If people can no longer afford food, those in the restaurant industry will not survive, and all industries will face the same fate, leading to the collapse of the CCP.